Hello, everyone. This is Ali Azzuddin from Fourth Generation for Education, our special assessment day, and this is session number 5. So in that chat, feel free to let us know from where you are watching. And as I can see, the people from USA, they started joining now. And then maybe we lost the people from Australia, who knows? People are in Singapore, India, South Korea. I'm so excited to see sometimes in new countries, Jordan, Fanny, if I'm not mistaken, you're currently in Netherlands. We have Saudi Arabia, UAE. People are taking breakfast in Toronto, Canada. This is so nice. And this is the afternoon here in Dubai. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. We still have one more session today after Fanny's session. So if the people are waking up in North America, Canada, and South America, you can still join and attend the last session of the day. All the morning sessions are recorded and they are available on YouTube. Fanny, it's not the first time that we collaborate together. We had collaborated together during last year, and I'm so happy to continue this collaboration. So in the chat feature, we will have all these discussion. We have also an interactive session for you today. Fanny prepared some interactive learning experiences. So I hope you are connected using a device and a laptop to be able to connect with us. I can see many people are watching from US and different places in the US. Some people are saying hello again, which means they've been watching since the morning. And let me check the people on Facebook if they started commenting and putting some ideas on Facebook. I'm going also to check this. And yeah, we have people from Japan and people from Dubai and people from Jordan. So Fanny, we're ready. If you don't mind sharing your slides and let us know a little bit about who you are, especially for the people who are watching your sessions for the first time. And welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Ali. It's a pleasure to be here as well. And I'm really happy to see that so many people are still there since morning, some new faces as well joining us. So thank you so much for being there today. And also thank you for whoever is going to watch this recording later on. So let's talk about assessing our own assessments. It's kind of meta. We had to go and find out a bit more today about this. But before, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I mostly have international school experience. I worked as a French teacher, as a tech integrator, as a director of teaching and learning. I'm also a postgraduate student, so I'm an online part-time student with the University of Dundee. I'm doing my doctorate in education. I'm the founder of No Borders Learning, and I also work as a full-time, I like to say, education disruptor with the Radical Education Innovation Unit at ErasmusX. It is at Erasmus University Rotterdam in the Netherlands. We serve 34,000 students with crazy ideas in education. I am the co-author of Stretch Yourself, and I received some ISTE awards in the past. So this is some snapshot about me. And I want to start immediately about why to do this particular session. So I think there are a lot of fears around assessment, which we are going to discuss. So I wanted this to be a moment to really hit the pause button and to kind of think about assessment in a critical manner. So just maybe to suspend some of the self-judgment we have about what makes an assessment perfect. This doesn't exist. And then also reconnect with our professional judgment. So this is kind of a triple agenda here. Hopefully you can feel that you have a chance to achieve those today. So let's get started immediately with this answer garden. So we'd like to know from you what might be some of your fears around assessment. And I'm going to put this link in the chat here so you can contribute. I hope you got it.
I'm going to put the link on Facebook for the people who are watching on Facebook. And so feel free to answer the question, what might
be
some
some of your
fears around assessment? I was also reading a message in the chat about the recording. All our sessions today are recorded. They are already published on our YouTube channel. And so once Fanny is done, also the session will be on YouTube. I will share with you also the YouTube link in few seconds. So if you want also to interact with us and to share your fears about assessment, all the people who are watching on Facebook, I shared with you the link. And so the people who are here, I'm going to put it again in the chat. And we started seeing these answers on the screen. As I told you, and I promised today, the session will be interactive. So we saw Padlet, we saw now Answer Garden. We have more things for you to come during the day. So let me know what else do we have. I can see nervous, judgment, the time, performance versus maybe completing,
competence, maybe?
Yes, competence, yeah, confused, accuracy is becoming at the center in this word, the cloud.
Someone is clever and knows how to use garden, answer garden here. Yes, okay, well, that is giving us really good introduction to the W's we're going to explore later on, which is, I think it's consistency. Definitely, we're worried about accuracy as well. Are we gathering the evidence, the learning data that is going to really genuinely show where the learner is right now? And consistency, maybe we are doing it differently than the teacher next door, but we are sometimes collaborating and trying to strive for this consistency. Are we looking at maybe consistency between what the students believe they should achieve versus what the teacher or the curriculum says? So there are a lot of different possible ramifications to those words, and we only have an hour, so we will see however we can go, wherever we can go together.
I like where you started, Fanny, with the fear of assessment, because I'm sure that we all have this fear, even now, if we want to go to a driving license test or assessment, or if we want to have an exam at the university, this fear from the childhood stays with us, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it depends also if it's the fear of the teacher, the fear of the student, or the fear of other stakeholders in the school. But what I've noticed is that oftentimes teachers are very worried about, they want to do a really good job in their assessment. And also for unit planners, I think it's really similar. We want to do a really good job, but we are never quite happy about our assessment. We are never quite happy about unit planners. We are worried whether the rubrics are good enough. So there's this kind of imposter syndrome that we need to kind of resist, or also resisting the, over complicating things and trying to be perfect because it's not possible. But then there's also this idea here of accuracy and reliability and validity of what we are doing. And also, what's the purpose of this assessment? Is it about control? The control is in the hand of who? The judgment, is it a judgmental or a more autonomy-supportive process? Is assessment the learning police, or is assessment an enjoyable process? And it's not showing here, but maybe sometimes people also connect assessment to grading. It doesn't necessarily have to be, when we are not really going to talk about grading today, but it's also part of maybe the fears when a grade is controlling or ego involving, rather than when students are able to, for example, self-assess, self-grade, monitor their progress. Okay. So good. We're back here.
Back to the presentation.
Yes. Thank you. And so our menu today, now that we have kind of had a little experience together, is to look at how can we define assessment and how might we unpack the 5 W's, or I was like, maybe it's called 6 W's or it's 5 W's and 1 H. So we're going to do that. And then what were some of our learnings and a little bit of reflection here. So let's dive right in. So here I try to really be specific. I mean, trying to keep what's the most important in thinking for this session today. So at least for me, assessing is gathering information about student learning and to kind of try to find out whether learning, and not whether teaching, but whether learning has occurred, whether learning happened. Did it happen or not? And maybe the quality of the learning. So here it will be looking at data. So sometimes this is something very intentional and very conscious practice, like we actually design those assessments, or sometimes it's maybe more something that we observe or that we find later on. We're looking for evidence. I think preschool teachers are really good at this. They observe a lot, they take anecdotal notes, and then they see the evidence. So it is going to demonstrate what the learners are, for example, what do they know, their factual knowledge, what do they understand at the conceptual higher level, or what are they able to do, their skills or the processes. So it's measuring learning, in other words. It allows students to be aware of their current standing. So I put against criteria because I'm not going to talk about standardized assessments. So I mean, grading on a curve and ranking students, I think students should be, their learning should be assessed against criteria, not against one another. And then learners are able to also then plan their next steps because they are aware of their current standing. And of course, I think really the ultimate aim of assessment for the teacher is to be able to plan next intervention. So what will I do next in order to help the students improve their learning? And I really like to go back to Chapuis to remember that quality assessments will answer these 3 questions, which is, where am I going? So for the learner to know what is the actual expectation, learning outcome, the target. Now, where am I exactly? So that is again about self-awareness. And then how can I close the gap, which is about the action that the students and the teacher will be able to make. So this is just a little kind of quote here to kind of summarize so far. So to me, the act of assessing, it can be ubiquitous because it can really be everywhere. It doesn't have to be like a formal test. There are so many ways to find out whether learning happened. It can be versatile because it's adaptable, it's flexible. If really our aim is for students to be learning, then our aim is not for them to sit down and do a test. Our aim is to really help them learn, which means we can have different types of assessment. We can let students decide on how they can show what they know. We can be flexible and accommodate or modify based on students' needs, whether they are identified or not. And yes, be really learning focused. So that can also mean that we are looking at the data from the assessment in a very critical manner and then decide sometimes to even ask the students to redo or retake an assessment for their benefits after they are able to improve their learning. So that, again, our aim is not to have a grade, for example, but our aim is for the students to have learned the material. And of course, invisible, that's kind of when I mentioned the preschoolers, for example, it's not always a formal time. It can happen in intangible ways. It can be a gut feeling that we have to be aware. A gut feeling is different than a bias, but it can be also asking students where they are, and then trying to have conversations, so coaching conversation with students, paraphrasing them or giving them the data back and asking them to question it. So it can happen in so many different ways. Yes, so here we are moving on to unpacking the 5 W's. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to join me in the Miro board. I don't know if you have that experience, and if you didn't, then great. How exciting. You're going to learn about a new tool that may change your teaching. For me, it does, because I open a Miro board almost every day. It's really awesome. So first, I'm going to demonstrate how it works, because I'm really aware that the first time you go to a Miro board, you are kind of overwhelmed and not sure how it works. So I'm going to first open it and show you. Oh, you got the link already. That's fine.
I have it.
Okay, thanks, Ali. All right, so I put a little screenshot to explain here how you can get a little sticky note. So as you can see my mouse, I'm going to the sticky note here. I can even choose my color, but I'm just going to go for the regular yellow. And here I can write my idea, and then I can place it where I think it belongs. Is it in the why we are assessing? Is it in the what? And so on. All right, you can also delete. So this is organized with the why at the center. Then here I put 4 quadrants. So the when will be this area. When are we assessing? Where are we assessing? Who are we assessing? And who is assessing, if you want. But it's more about the students. And what are we assessing? And finally, how will be all of this space. So I give you some time now to take some sticky notes and to feel free to write down some of your thoughts about assessments.
And I can see all these arrows moving around, which means we have people joined our Miro board, and they started taking the post-it. So maybe if we show them again, where do they found the post-it
Yes,
card?
and also maybe something that I forgot to mention is Miro, you need to zoom in and out. So if you have a mouse or your mouse pad, just, use, I am actually using my mouse pad now to go and, zoom in and then zoom out.
And then, Fanny, if you show them again, where are the post-it? The sticky note. So it's called the sticky note under the T. Yeah. So if you look at these sticky notes, you can pick them and you can write in them.
Yes.
And so we are answering the WH questions.
Yeah. I think this is just a screenshot, guys. This is just a screenshot. So it will be on your side over here. Yeah, and I can see some of you have found it.
Yes.
And then you can zoom.
Good. It's nice to bring these new strategies to these webinars, so people are also seeing how it's done, and so they are seeing live a kind of an interactive way of presenting a webinar. So if you need any help, let us know. We can show it to you again. The Miro is getting filled of post-it, and a lot of interaction is happening. So this is the link if you want to try it from the chat, and even I've put it on Facebook for the people who are watching on Facebook. Go on it. You can see like different concentric circles with the question why, how, what, when, if I'm not mistaken. And then you can use the sticky note, and then you can add your answers. So I can see some guests, I can see some names, I can see people interacting on this board. So let us give them a few more minutes, and then we will see.
Yeah, that's nice. So already we can observe from the when. It's interesting all the time.
What does Miro stand for, Nadine? It's the name of the application.
Yeah.
So like Padlet, Wacklet, Miro, Jamboard, and we are demonstrating for you how it's working. So you can see it's a very interactive tool. And so you create a board, and then if you are still teaching online, you share the link with your students, and now all the students are picking these sticky note and they are answering the question. Lujane is saying it's a kind of a whiteboard for collaboration. Yes, very true, Lujane. But again, it has some features, and it creates all these kind of collaboration.
Yeah, and right now I'm using it so your names are not shown, so you are given an anonymous name. This can be useful to know when you are you want the learners to not feel the pressure. And yeah, you can have different frames. You can also hide certain frames to show them one by one. You can see some comments.
Yeah.
Okay, someone didn't find the post-it, but
They added a comment.
that's the mess of learning. We know about it. If you find it later, it's here again.
Under the letter T, sticky note. It's called a sticky note.
Yeah, so this one is a screenshot that I put here, but this is your actual dashboard and your sticky note.
Bar, if you want. Okay, so Fanny, shall we move, or do you want to give them more time?
Sorry, I am getting a really bad throat.
I don't know what happened to all my speakers today. Like they had some voice problems.
Yeah, so I can see, I was interested to know what the how might look like. So I can see observe talk product using tools. So I would like to know what kind of tools are we talking about? Present, okay. Doing performing skills, okay. Discussions. Nobody is saying exams or multiple choice questions.
I think if they've been watching since the morning, they got now a lot of new ideas.
Yeah, that's really, really wonderful. I'm going to go back slowly and see. Yeah, so if you can continue to contribute, that's wonderful, but I'm going to go back and share my screen again because I wanted to share with you kind of what I came up with as I was planning. So my assessment system, so I did the same exercise, but I'm only one person. So it's really nice to see you guys, what you have come up with. And I put this kind of scribbly design to say, this is work in progress and definitely not something that is finished. And just like any learning. So this is what I came up with, and you could also continue to connect things. So I'd like to take you through some parts of this and then let you have a look later on, or maybe take this as a conversation starter in your school. There's a PDF where you really have the details visible. And maybe there are spelling mistakes, maybe there are things that are super important and missing. This is not going to be a perfect model, but I thought it would be a useful model in order to help you see what makes sense to you. You might all have different questions or challenges. So perhaps to have different perspectives around assessment might help. So why are we assessing and what's the point of assessment? So I've put here some ideas to transform data into knowledge. Sometimes we do have a lot of data. We call this the DRIP, data-rich information poor. We don't necessarily have information or knowledge about the students. So to remember that the data that we're trying to gather should be meaningful and should give us information, knowledge about the student. To respond to the needs, to document the learning, to communicate about learning, to check understanding, to make decisions. Are we also using professional judgment? Do we have sufficient evidence to take decisions, especially when we are taking high-stake decisions? And in the pink post-it, I put maybe some questions that kind of capture the importance of this circle. So what's the point of assessing? So kind of always thinking, what is the impact? Will it serve the students' learning? Will the data help us respond to needs? So maybe some of those will be on the why, kind of before even designing our assessment, if we are in this proactively designing assessment. That's some of the questions that might help. Where are we assessing? So I put some examples. If it's at school, if it's on screen, are they familiar with the platform, the tool? If it's at home, is this the best place for a supportive environment? Is it equitable? Online, do we have access in an exam room? Are we considering stress, for example, as a potential barrier to measuring learning accurately? So the question would be, how does the location or the mode of assessing influence assessment experience and result? How might we remove barriers? And going on with barriers, it's also learning about our students. Who are our students? I actually forgot to put the teacher here. It's very important. I should have put professional judgment here. Teacher using professional judgment as a way to reflect about their practice, dialogue with the students, but also as a socially situated practice by talking with colleagues. But here I focus on the students. Do we know our students? Do we check our bias and blind spots? How can we include all our students? Are we measuring learning in ways that all learners can achieve? And that will then go into the how, where I spent a lot of time unpacking UDL for you, Universal Design for Learning, and what would it mean in terms of assessment? Are we providing multiple means for action and expression? For example, by letting students choose how to show what they know, as long as we are still measuring what we are supposed to, not to focus on the product, but the purpose of the assessment. Are we able to integrate multiple means of representation, for example, different modalities and formats for access, whether we are giving the option or whether the students can choose how to show their learning? Means of engagement also, is it challenging enough? Maybe it's what is challenging for one isn't for the other. So do we have flexibility in the questions that we ask? Does it involve thinking about thinking? Does it connect to students' interests, goals, aspirations, or value? Or at least do we give them a rationale so that they can connect to the idea that even though I'm not so keen on this subject, I am in DP and I have an exam. And so my teacher can tell me, this is the expectation, this is the rationale. So I'm a little bit more engaged knowing that it is clear what is expected of me. And a little bit here on modification and accommodation, so you can find out more. What are we assessing? So you put some of these already, whether it is knowledge, understandings, skills, the nature of the assessment. Is it product, progress, process? That will be different. We cannot then aggregate those into something, a single grade, for example. We will need to be sure that we separate them. What's the cognitive rigor we are looking for? So maybe the question could be, what am I measuring? What does it look like when it's achieved? So co-creation of these, I'm going to stop describing everything because it's too much, but you can see there's also something on rubrics here, on feedback, and this is probably some of the ideas that you shared is the types of assessment. So is it going to be teacher-led mostly, or is it going to be student-led? Is it going to be formal, informal? So I just put some, but one constant that is kind of found everywhere is the feedback. And I believe that feedback can have a powerful effect if it is autonomy supportive, not if it is controlling.
Fanny, do you mind if you show us again the participants' Miro board?
Yes.
And then just to reflect as educators. So as you can see, this is your first draft. You did a quick brainstorming. And so Fanny took it further and she added some arrows, she added some connection. And this can be a great collaborative tool in a mini PD at your school, in a collapse planning meeting about assessment, reflecting on your assessment policy, and then your final product, if we go again to the final product of Fanny, which is not final because we can always add to it, you see all these connections. And so we are modeling for you some new tools and strategies for all the people who are new to Miro. And then you can see here with all these details that Fanny took us through, the thinking can take us really deeper and further when we are collaborating and working together. So it's time to go back to the main presentation, right?
Yeah, well, this is really the main content I think will be there. So I'm happy to have any discussion because then I wanted to simply share some tools with you. So this, the system I just showed you, which is imperfect, I've decided to share it anyway on my website, on my resource section. I could always iterate and place a new one there. But if you want to download it as a PDF, you can do that there. And I also created a coaching protocol. So if this system is too overwhelming, maybe you like to start with coaching protocol, which you can use for yourself, or you can also use it to have a conversation with a colleague. And so I'm going to open it and show you what it looks like, but all of this is available under the resources section on my website. So just for you to have an idea of the coaching protocol, some of the questions you can ask yourself as you're planning your assessment. So starting with the impact and the goal. So why, what, and then the conditions around assessment, which can have a big impact on the actual results or even the process for the students, the experience. And then to look at the approach, how will I design the assessment? So this is particularly relevant if you are looking at designing a summative task, because it's sometimes we jump into like a fun tool, or we focus a lot on the instrument of assessment, but maybe before we jump into how we are going to design, we need to know why we are designing, what we are measuring, and whether the conditions around are okay for all students to show what they know at a high level. Then you have your assessment moment. And then, of course, if there is no feedback, there is not real point in having the assessment. So after the assessment happened, what did we learn and what can we do next? So what did we learn from the data? How can we respond to student needs? And how can we use our professional judgment to ensure we have accurate information about the learner? We can have a dialogue with the student as well. Sometimes it's the best way to have an accurate measure. Qualitative assessments are probably really accurate, actually, even though it sounds so subjective. But I have no shame in saying that assessing and grading is subjective or intersubjective. That's why we need to involve the student, and we need to involve the dialogue with ourselves and the dialogues with our colleagues. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you was a sort of an acronym that you can use to create your performance task. So it's SHOW. So S for situation, H for how, O for objective, and W for who. So this is just a quick way for you to remember what might be in your scenario. So I put a quick example here, really, really simple. I teach French as a foreign language, emerging level. So this would be perhaps how I would present the task, or maybe this, whatever you like. So you are planning a trip to a French-speaking country for tourism purpose. You have an appointment with the travel agent to book your transport, find accommodation, and decide what you might visit there. So you can here try to measure how the students are asking questions. So it's a very simple way of describing the assessment, but of course you will adapt it to your students, your situation, how deep and complex you want them to think. And of course you can make it then that you simply keep the template empty and the students can decide. You keep it empty except the objective that you are measuring, and then you ask them or you can give them options where you're kind of releasing agency back to them. And something that I love to use is a single point rubric with Solo. So I use Solo a lot. Then it helps the students to have a common language about where they are in their learning. So find out more about Solo separately, but the little icons are really useful to understand that learning is not happening yet. Learning is really beginning. Then we are starting to see, okay, maybe I have the questions about French, but I'm not really able to connect them in a logical manner. But then I'm starting to connect the different question into a dialogue, into this authentic situation. And then level 5 will be, I'm able to have another conversation with these questions, but in another context. So you would put the objective here, and with your students before the task, perhaps you would come up with what might evidence look like. So everyone knows where they are going and how they can achieve. Yes.
Good, Fanny. We got some positive feedbacks about these templates and these resources that you shared with us.
Yeah, I hope you got the link. I can put it also
in the chat.
Yes, if I click here and do this, maybe something easy to show you where it is because it's a bit messy, but I put them here. Okay.
Yes.
So
okay.
This is the PDF of the assessment system, and then the two things that I shared with you. So this is the link.
Thank you, Fanny. I'm going to put it also on Facebook for the people who are watching on Facebook.
Yep. Okay, so well, I'm already reaching the reflection stage.
Yes.
Of course, you're always welcome to ask questions in between or just have a conversation around all of these ideas. Well, that was kind of the purpose here, was to, we zoomed in the system, but really to zoom out and be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I have the expertise in my subject or whatever I'm teaching or the grade level. So to remember that you got this, you are the expert, and you should judge your, you should really use your professional judgment and look back at the big picture. So again, why am I assessing? You know, go back to those questions by yourself, zooming out of maybe the stress that assessment can bring at times. And I wanted to know from your point of view now, what might be one thing that challenged you today in this session, one thing that you will implement, and one thing that you will share with a colleague, like Monday or Sunday if you work on Sunday. So I'd be looking forward to reading those on the chat if you would like to share.
And while they are sharing this reflection, we're going to give them maybe 2 minutes. So one thing that challenged you, one thing you will implement, and one thing you will share. So take the next 2 minutes to reflect on these. And then, Fanny, do you want to announce our surprise for today, or we can share it? So I think you have something on the slide. Yes. So Fanny designed an asynchronous course. And so this asynchronous course is available on our website. I shared with you the link, and then you can have a discount. So if you would like to buy this course, it's a very affordable price for all the people who are asking for certificates. We don't give them for these free webinars because they are published everywhere. They are published on Facebook, on YouTube. And so we cannot track how many people are watching them, but we are creating some nice sessions for you, asynchronous sessions in French, in English, in Arabic on our website. So you can go on the website, and then you will be able to buy this course. We have a discount code. The discount code is available for 30 November, and then you can learn with Fanny about autonomy-supportive feedback, where you are going to unpack with her different concepts about feedback, how to give the feedback, do some assessment, individual assessment. And so now I'm going to share the screen. And I think that people, they got the chance to see the discount code, and even if not, that this will be recorded, so they will be going back to check the code. And here on my screen, I'm going to tell you on the website, so you will be able to see that now we have the details of the course. So by the end of this course, you will recognize the difference between controlling feedback and autonomy supportive feedback. We talked a lot about feedback today. If you want to learn more, you can go book this course asynchronously. It's like a 2-hour course, Fanny. We have 2 modules, or like some modules for you. You will go through this module independently whenever you want, wherever you want. And then you will be looking at the condition for the feedback to be offered and to be received, how to craft these and to feel confident about giving this feedback. We will give you some coaching techniques. So audience, all the teachers from grade 4 to grade 12, it's an intermediate level. And then you have the price here. All the information and registration are available via this link. So feel free to contact us if you need more details. And going back to the reflection, I can see that many people, they wrote that they will use Miro, try to share it with others. They will use the resources that you shared, and then they will look into how to assess concepts, implementing solo. And so there is a lot of takeaway from the session. Fanny, what would you like to tell us more?
Yeah, I was trying to balance a bit of theory and practice, and in 1 hour to still show the complexity and also to give some simple tools. So kind of to say, yes, it's kind of complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think there is a lot within the human resource. So working with students and just going by and asking students, even being vulnerable with students, is a really good way to build a relationship. Talking with colleagues and talking with the self. So being a reflexive kind of practitioner. So reflecting on and in action. I guess that's, if we have that the attitude of the learner, like even if we're not super happy with our assessments, I think if we have the right attitude to it, we can still gain a lot of insight. So I know it's like a really large topic, maybe sometimes very specific to subject, grade levels, or the goals of a particular teacher. So I hope this was useful, and I try to kind of balance everything. So
Good.
yes, thank you.
So we will have a short break now, and then after the break, feel free to join Sarah in the last webinar for today, unconventional assessment for an unconventional word. The webinar will also provide you with hands-on ideas that you can take and implement in your classes. So if you didn't register and you would like to do it, it's still open. And if you cannot and you are busy, everything will be on our YouTube channel. So as you can see, a few hours ago, we had the role of assessment, feedback to feed forward, how to use assessment to improve learning, effective assessment online, and very soon, Fanny webinar will be posted. Going back to the asynchronous workshops, so I just want to let you know that these workshops, they are very interactive. Even though you can do them by yourself, you can check our agency workshops in Arabic or in English. You can check some workshops that I prepared as well, asynchronous. We have the French one, and this is the assessment one. So feel free to try these new opportunities. Thank you, everyone. I can see a lot of thank you messages in the chat. And I'm going to take a short break, and I will see you for the last webinar for today. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, everyone, and have an excellent day or afternoon, depending on where you are on this planet.
Bye.